My sister poisoned me for getting into college while my mom held signs saying, "Shame on you." Now they're both begging for help, but I'm not falling for it again. You might find this hard to believe, but it truly happened. My adopted sister, Tess, once threw my science medal at me, screaming, "You don't deserve this," and even poisoned my food, all out of pure jealousy when I got accepted into college. When I turned to my mother for support, she simply said, "Don't flaunt your success," where Tess can see it, and then sharply added, "If you truly care about your sister, you'd focus on helping her heal." I didn't respond. That was 8 years ago, this Thanksgiving. She stood on my lawn, yelling that I had traumatized Tess again. In my family, love meant watching my adopted sister, Tess, destroy my achievements while screaming, "You don't deserve this," and then being expected to forgive her without an apology. Tess is now 24. We adopted her from foster care when she was 15, when I was 16. Shortly after Tess joined our family, I won the regional science fair. I wanted her to be my best friend, so I told her first. Her initial reaction? She grabbed my medal and hurled it straight at my head. "You don't deserve this," echoed through the house as she collapsed on the floor. My mother just stared at me, then curled into a ball, crying, and told me it was entirely my fault. Don't display achievements where Tess can see them. This set the tone for the next 8 years of my life. The dynamic finally shifted one beautiful afternoon last spring when I received my acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins. A lifetime of academic pressure, imposter syndrome, and crying into textbooks all culminated in that single moment. I called friends, announced the acceptance, and started looking at apartments in Baltimore. I was just Alina, not Tess's trigger, not the family sacrifice, just a future doctor planning her escape. Until my mother came home and found me celebrating. "This is wonderful. We need to figure out how to make it work." She smiled, but her eyes told a different story. After an hour of fake niceness, the truth came out. "Of course, Tess will need to come with you. Baltimore has excellent trauma programs, and she can't handle you leaving. I'll help with rent if you get a 2-bedroom. Tess in my apartment, with access to my medical supplies, study materials, and future. Mom, you know what happens when she sees me doing well. She hasn't had an episode in months," she claimed, as if Tess hadn't trashed my Mac prep books just last week. "If you want what's best for your sister, you'd help her heal." Mom constantly reminded me of Tess's past. Tess was the scapegoat in her foster family. Nothing violent, just 1,000 small mistreatments. No birthday presents for her, but parties. For the biological daughter, hand-me-downs. While the other girl got new clothes, report cards ignored. While bees were celebrated. "You don't deserve nice things" became a catchphrase. Tess was now making it mine. She was stronger, colder, and harder than me, but she also had an Achilles heel, her predictability. 10 minutes of staring signaled impending devastation. 15 minutes meant absolute destruction. Hide anything important. Never celebrate anywhere she could see. But medical school couldn't conceal 4 years of accomplishment. I remember being 18 when Tess found my college acceptance letters. I didn't realize it until I was eating at the kitchen table and noticed a faint white powder in my food. The smell confirmed it. Rat poison. "What the? Are you crazy?" I yelled, pointing my fork at Tess. She just cackled like a madwoman. Meanwhile, my mother lectured me on not bragging and the value of humility. That's when I realized my mother wasn't denying the pattern, she was preserving it. I told Mom, no, Tess is not allowed near my dorm. But she can visit Baltimore and FaceTime me all the time, and I'll come home for holidays. I even offered to look into trauma programs near my home. "Oh, then I'm not helping with any school expenses," Mom yelled.
"Oh, la 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 la. Fine, I'll take out more loans," I sighed.
The next 2 months were pure misery. Mom contacted relatives, claiming I was abandoning my traumatized sister. She brought Tess to my pharmacy job to practice separations. Tess stared at my white drugstore coat for 10 minutes before knocking down an entire display of medications. "You don't deserve this," my manager asked them. Not to return. Fast forward to the week before my white coat ceremony. My aunt called me. "Your mother bought plane tickets. She says you can't exclude Tess from family milestones. She's been staring at your white coat photo online for days." I knew what that meant. Mom had spent 8 years making sure I understood that Tess's trauma was more important than my future. Every destroyed achievement had a corresponding reason related to foster care. But I wasn't the terrified, people-pleasing 16-year-old girl anymore. I was a woman who understood her worth and was prepared to fight back. So, I started planning. The first thing I did was change the ceremony location across all my social media accounts. I posted about how it had been moved to a different building on campus, then I called the school to explain my situation. Douglas, the security guard, was incredibly understanding. He said he would keep an eye out for anyone matching their description. I also asked my roommate, Jenna, to be my watchdog. She was already well aware of Tess's behavior. I woke up at 5 a.m. on the day of the event. I couldn't sleep anyway, I was so nervous. I took my white coat from its hiding place in Jenna's closet, as I had been hiding it there for weeks. I'd learned my lesson about storing critical items. In my own room, got dressed in the bathroom with the door locked, even placing a chair against it. Paranoid? Maybe. But try living with someone who poisoned your meals. Jenna drove me to campus early. We took her car because mine was too easily recognized. I kept checking my phone. Mom had already texted 12 times, all variations of "where are you?" and "Tess is so excited to support you." She once ripped up my score report to show her support. For my SAT results, we parked in a different lot than usual. I entered the building through the back entrance. Douglas arrived just as he'd promised. He gave me a thumbs up. No sign of them yet. I went into the prep room where all the other students were getting ready. Everyone was snapping selfies and fixing their hair. I just sat in the corner and watched the door. My friend Jake came over and asked if I was all right. I told him I was anxious and didn't mention that my crazy sister might show up and ruin everything. He wouldn't have understood anyway. His biggest family drama was his father missing his soccer games. Must be nice. My phone started buzzing about 30 minutes before the event. Mom. Again. This time she and Tess were pictured at the wrong building. The one I'd posted online. They stood outside, bewildered. Tess was dressed strangely formally, like she was going to prom. Mom's texts grew angrier. "Where are you? This isn't funny. Answer your phone now." I switched my phone off. Jenna texted me from her spot in the lobby. "Everything's clear so far." The ceremony coordinator began lining us up alphabetically by last name. I was in the middle of the pack. Good. Harder to find. Started walking toward the auditorium. My hands were shaking. Not from stage fright, but from anticipating the usual screech of, "You don't deserve this." The hall was packed with parents holding cameras and flowers. As we entered, I scanned the crowd. I didn't see them. Maybe my plan worked. We took our places on stage. The dean began his remarks, emphasizing dedication and service. I was barely listening, just staring at the doors, and I saw her, not Tess. Mom. She was at the back entrance arguing with security. Her face was crimson. She was pointing at me on stage. But Douglas wouldn't let her in. She didn't have a ticket. See, I had conveniently forgotten to mention that the ceremony was ticket-only. Oops, the dean called my name. I stood up and walked across the platform. Accepted my white coat, smiled for the official photo. And for the first time in 8 years, I celebrated an accomplishment without dread. No flying trophies, no destroyed papers, no poison in my food. It's just me in my white coat, beginning my future. After the ceremony, Jenna and I met outside. She was beaming as she told me Mom and Tess had arrived shortly after I received my coat. Tess supposedly tried to storm the stage, but was stopped at the door by the same security guard who had kept Mom out. Mom created a scene, yelling about discrimination and trauma. Other parents started staring. It left before campus police arrived. I checked my phone while driving home. 47 missed calls. Over 100 texts. The final one from Mom was simple. "Come home immediately. We need to discuss your actions." My behavior. Not Tess trying to ruin my ceremony. Not her trying to poison me. My behavior. I didn't go home. I went to Jake's apartment instead. His housemates were hosting a party. I wore my white coat the entire time. I took 1,000,000 photos. I shared them all over social media, every single one, because for once I wasn't going to hide my accomplishment. I wasn't going to dim my light so Tess wouldn't be triggered. The party went until 2 a.m. I slept on Jake's couch. I woke up to more angry texts, this time from Dad. He usually avoided Mom and Tess's drama, but it seemed Mom had gotten to him. His message focused on family commitment and trauma awareness. Same script, different messenger. I knew I'd have to go home eventually. My belongings were there, my car, my entire life, really. But I sensed something had changed. I stood up to them. They didn't know how I outsmarted them. The world hadn't ended. Tess hadn't spontaneously combusted because I didn't let her damage my achievement. Mom hadn't disowned me yet. Jenna picked me up around noon. We drove past my house first, just to check it out. Mom's car was in the driveway. So was Tess's. The curtains were drawn. Everything looked normal, but I knew better. Inside was most likely a battleground of Mom's guilt trips and Tess's anger. We parked down the street. I texted Dad that I was coming home. I figured he was the safest option. He instantly responded, saying Mom was at her book club and Tess was in her room. The coast was clear. Even so, I insisted on bringing Jenna along. There's safety in numbers and all that. We walked into the house and it was quiet. Too quiet. Dad was in the kitchen, looking exhausted. He started lecturing me about family duty. I cut him off. Told him I was just there to pack a few things. His face fell. "Are you serious?" he asked. I said yes. I went into my room with Jenna and started stuffing clothes into a suitcase. I grabbed my laptop, chargers, critical documents, and other essential items. Tess wouldn't be able to replace the things she had destroyed. Jenna helped me carry boxes to her car. Dad just watched from the doorway. He didn't help. Didn't stop us either. We were almost finished when I heard the front door bang. Mother's voice, sharp and hostile, then footsteps on the stairs. Fast, purposeful. I recognized the sound. I grabbed the last box and headed for the door. But Tess was already there, standing in my doorway, staring at my empty room. Her expression was blank, which was worse than fury. She stared at me. Then she noticed the box in my hands, then back to my room. The staring had begun. I checked my watch. I started counting. 1 minute. 2. Jenna shifted uncomfortably beside me. She had heard the stories but had never seen it happen. 3 minutes. 4. Tess's hands began shaking. Here it came. But then something strange happened. Instead of screaming or throwing things, Tess simply turned around and walked away. Down the hallway, into her room, and slammed the door. Jenna and I exchanged looks. That was not typical. Tess always erupted. Always. Mom emerged at the top of the staircase. Her book club dress was immaculate, but her expression was twisted with rage. She looked at the boxes in my hands, then at my empty room, then at me. "What do you think you're doing?" I told her I was moving out. I found a place closer to school. I needed to focus on my studies. She laughed. Not a good laugh. The kind that makes my skin crawl. "You're not going anywhere. The family stays together. Tess needs you." I pushed past her with my box. Jenna followed. Mom grabbed my arm on the stairs, hard. Her nails dug in. "You're being selfish. You're traumatizing Tess all over again." Good daughters don't abandon family. I pulled my arm free. "Keep walking." Dad was still in the kitchen, looking into his coffee. Didn't even look up as we passed. Mom followed us outside, detailing every sacrifice she had made. Every time she chose us over herself. Every penny spent on Tess's therapy. We loaded the final box into Jenna's car. Mom stood on the grass with her arms folded. "If you leave now, don't bother coming back for Thanksgiving." I got inside the car. Jenna started the engine. As we drove away, I slowed just enough to look back. Tess was gazing through her bedroom window, just standing there, staring. It gave me chills. Jenna let me stay at her house for a few days. Carla, her roommate, was nice about it. They had a pull-out couch in the living room, which was less than perfect, but better than being at home. During those days, I looked for apartments, checked my bank account, and calculated my student debts. Mom's texts didn't stop. They got worse. She'd gone from angry to manipulative. Messages about Tess not eating, Tess crying all night, Tess asking why I hated her. Classic mom moves. I stopped reading them after day 2. But then Dad started texting. That was new. He usually remained neutral. His messages were unusual and worrying. Tess was acting strangely, stranger than usual. Quiet, too quiet. Said she'd been in her room for 3 days straight. I almost gave in. Almost drove back to check on her. Jenna talked me out of it. Reminded me that this was most likely another manipulation. Tess was 23, not 4, and she had parents to care for her. She was right. I knew she was right. I still felt guilty, though. On the 4th day, I found a studio apartment near campus. Tiny but mine. Trevor, the landlord, was unconcerned about my family issues and only wanted the first and last month's rent and a security deposit. I signed the lease that afternoon. I finally had my own place, my own space, my own life. Moving in was easy because I didn't have much. Jenna helped me buy basic items like Goodwill furniture, dollar store dishes, and Walmart bedding. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would be too bad if Tess found me and ruined everything. Old habits die hard. I had been at my apartment for exactly 1 week when Dad showed up. I'm not sure how he found me, but it was probably through Jenna's social media. She tagged me in a housewarming selfie. Should have known better. Dad looked dreadful. Bags under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, very undad-like. He said we should talk about Tess, about Mom, about everything. I let him in because he was still my father. He sat on my secondhand couch and started talking. He told me things I hadn't heard before about the adoption, about Tess's first few months with us. Apparently, it was worse than I realized. Tess had tried to run away 6 times, had threatened to harm herself, had begged to return to foster care. Mom had kept everything from me. She wanted me to bond with my new sister without baggage. So much for that plan, Dad said the therapist had warned them. Tess might become fixated on me, he said. My successes might be perceived as threats. She might act out. Mom promised to handle it, to protect both of us. Instead, she had chosen Tess every time, and Dad had let her. He apologized, actually spoke the words, said he should have intervened years ago. I should have been protected too. But Mom was so convinced she could mend Tess that enough love and understanding would heal her. And he wanted to believe her. Then he dropped the real bomb. Tess had found my apartment. She had been sitting outside in her car for hours, watching, waiting. He had followed her here, was trying to persuade her to go, but she wouldn't move. She said she needed to see me, to talk with me, to explain something. I looked outside my window. Sure enough, Tess's little Honda was parked across the street. I could see her silhouette in the driver's seat, sitting there, looking at my building. My skin crawled. How long had she been there? How many times had I walked by without noticing? Dad wanted me to speak to her, said it might help. Perhaps she needed closure. Perhaps she wanted to apologize. I laughed, actually laughed in his face. Tess apologize? In 8 years, she had never apologized. Not for the trophies, not for the poison, not for anything. Dad, however, continued to press, said something different this time. Tess had been acting strangely since my departure. Not destructive, weird, just sad and unusual. She said she had been going over old photos, writing in a journal, going to therapy without being forced by her mother. I told him no. I was done being Tess's emotional punching bag. I'm done hiding my accomplishments. I'm done living in terror. He could tell her that. He could tell Mom that. I was done with everything. Dad nodded, looked defeated, said he understood. Then he left. I watched from my window as he walked to Tess's car. I saw him leaning in her window. I saw her shake her head. I saw him try again. More head shaking. Then he walked to his own car and drove off. But Tess remained, still watching, still waiting. I tried to ignore her. I made dinner. Netflix. I did some studying, but I kept watching the window. She was constantly there. Same position, same car, same stare. It was creeping me out. I considered calling the cops. But what would I say? My sister is sitting in her car. It's not illegal. Around midnight, I stopped trying to sleep. I kept imagining her breaking in, me found dozing. Who knows what they're doing? So I sat at my window, watching her watch me like a bizarre stakeout standoff. Neither of us moving. Neither of us. Backing down, then I saw her get out of the car. My heart started racing. She was approaching, coming for me. I grabbed my phone and prepared to call 911, but she didn't go to my building. She went to the corner store instead, returned with a bag. Got back into her car. I resumed watching. This lasted for 3 days. 3 days with Tess in her car. I spent 3 days checking windows and securing doors. 3 days spent jumping at every noise. Jenna claimed I was being paranoid. Tess was probably just processing, that I should call the cops if I was truly terrified. But I wasn't really terrified. I was tired. I was tired of running, tired of hiding. I was tired of allowing Tess to dictate my life, even when she wasn't present. So, on day 4, I did something stupid. I went out. I walked straight up to her car, knocked on her window. She rolled it down carefully. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. She had been crying. Tess never cried. Not in front of others. Not ever. We looked at each other for a long time. Then she said something that surprised me. I know what I did to you. Not I'm sorry. This wasn't an apology, just an acknowledgement. I wasn't sure what to say, so I didn't say anything, just standing there on the street. I stared at my sister, who had made my life miserable for the last 8 years, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the yelling to begin, for something to fly at my head. Instead, she reached into her bag. I flinched and prepared to run, but she simply pulled out a notebook and handed it to me through the window. I've been writing it all down. Everything I remember, everything I did, Dr. Martinez said it would help. I took the notebook. I didn't open it. Didn't want to see. Her list of destruction. She continued talking. She claimed to have been in therapy twice a week since I left trial therapy, as opposed to the family sessions Mom used to drag her to. She said she was on new medications. She said she was trying. I wanted to laugh or yell, throw the notebook back at her. 8 years of misery, and now she's trying, now that I'd successfully escaped. But I just stood there, holding her diary, feeling numb. She wasn't finished talking, and she never was when she first started. She told me about the foster family, not Mom's version, her version, how they adopted her first, how they had loved her for 3 years, how they had a biological daughter, and everything changed. How you don't deserve this became her life's soundtrack. How she had believed them, then she said something that struck me deeply. When I saw you holding that award, joyful and proud and deserving, I couldn't take it. If you deserved nice things, perhaps I was the problem. Perhaps they were correct. About me. I found myself sitting on the curb, holding her notebook, still processing. She came out of the car and sat next to me, avoiding getting too near, like she was afraid I'd flee. Perhaps she was afraid of hurting me again. We sat there silently for a bit. Then she told me about the previous week. Mom had been contacting her frequently, telling her that I had abandoned them, telling her to go find me, to make me come home, to help me comprehend family. But for the first time, Tess had declined, had hung up on her, had blocked her number. That is why she was here. Not to drag me home, not to damage my apartment. But please warn me. Mom was plotting something. She had been speaking with family, gathering alliances, planning an intervention. The entire family was scheduled to confront me on Thanksgiving. Make me see sense. Make me come home. She took out her phone and showed me the family group chat I had been deleted from. Message after message about ungrateful children, about family obligations, about how I was causing Mom worry. Tess needs her sister. Aunt Marcy called me selfish. Cousin Jake warned me that I would regret this. Grandma was dissatisfied with my decisions. But Tess had defended me in front of everybody, said I deserved to live my own life. She admitted that she had made a mistake by hurting me. Mom told me I needed to leave. The responses were savage. They were now turning on her too, calling her ungrateful, saying I had indoctrinated her. I eventually opened the notebook. Page after page of memories. The trophy incident described in detail. The torn acceptance letters. The poisoned food. However, there were certain things I had forgotten or never knew. She'd become enraged at times after witnessing my success. She had planned to hurt me, but stopped. She sometimes hated herself for disliking me. The previous entry was made yesterday. Alina deserved everything good. I know that now. I've always known that. I just hadn't felt it previously. The medications helped. Therapy helps. Observing her go, however, proved beneficial. She's free now. Free from me. It's free from Mom. Free to be brilliant. I did one thing correctly. I let her leave. I handed the journal back. I told her I needed time. I needed to process 8 years of pain. She nodded, said she understood. She said she would leave me alone. But before she left, she had one last thing to say about Mom, about what was coming, about how I could defend myself. Mom had called the school, claiming a family emergency, trying to obtain my schedule, trying to figure out where I lived.
Where I live.
Administration had not informed her, but Mom persisted. She had also been calling me at work, telling them I was having a breakdown, that I needed assistance, that family was concerned. Tess had screenshots, messages in which Mom discussed tactics, how to make me go home, how to make me realize I was being selfish, how to use Tess's trauma to make me feel guilty, how to turn my family against me, how to make my life so horrible. That I would crawl back. But here's the kicker. Tess had sabotaged her, deleting messages before Mom sent them, giving her incorrect information, telling my relatives that I had relocated to another city, running interference. My destroyer had become my protector, but the world felt. Upside down, she stood to go. She said she would continue to warn me if Mom escalated. She said she would try to keep her distracted. She said she understood if I did not want to see her again. Then she got into her car and drove away. I was left sitting on the sidewalk with 8 years of suffering and one notepad full of regret. I went back inside and called Jenna. I told her everything. She came over carrying wine and Kleenex. We went over Tess's notepad together, page by page, page after pain of pain and recognition. A teenager who had been told she deserved nothing turned that lesson on everyone else. My parents allowed it to happen. I'm suffering because of it. Jenna inquired what I was going to do, about Tess, about Mom, about Thanksgiving. I did not know. A part of me wanted to forgive Tess. She was trying. She was changing. Defending me. But 8 years is a long time. Trauma does not just fade with medication and therapy. The following couple weeks were quiet. There were no mom assaults, no family ambushes, just myself, school, and my small apartment. I poured myself into studying. The first anatomy exam was coming soon. I had always been adept at memorizing, at concentrating, at blocking everything else out. It's how I got through living with Tess. But I kept thinking about her journal, about her sitting outside for 3 days, about her blocking Mom for me. It did not erase the past. Scars did not heal properly, but it meant something. Perhaps. Not forgiveness, perhaps not friendship, but something. Then, Thanksgiving week arrived. The family group chat erupted again. Jenna showed me screenshots. Everyone confirmed that they would be at Mom's place. Everyone was willing to talk sense. To me, everyone was confident they could resolve this family crisis. Tess had attempted to warn them off. They had turned utterly against her. Mom texted me directly for the first time in several weeks. Sweet as pie. Just want my baby girl home for. Turkey, just want family together. I just want to talk. There is no pressure. There's no guilt. Just love. I knew better. This was her last play. Get me into that house with 20 relatives. Break me down. Bring me home. I replied that I had to work. Lies, but whatever. She replied immediately. I checked with your management. I know you. Have a day off. Lying to family is beneath you. Your dad is disappointed. Tess is devastated. You're breaking hearts. Then came the threat. If you don't show up, I'll come to you with the whole family. We'll conduct the intervention at your apartment, in front of your neighbors, in front of everybody. You'll be embarrassed into submission. Mom's style is classic. Public humiliation was her preferred weapon. I went into a panic. I called Tess without thinking. She answered the first ring. She's serious, Tess explained. I overheard her making arrangements. Aunt Marcy's bringing her van. They're going to come up at your place around noon to cause a commotion and compel you to listen. I inquired why she was assisting me. I asked, not accusingly, but simply curious. She was silent for a bit before saying something. I will never forget, because I took stuff from you for 8 years. Perhaps it's time I gave back. We created a plan. Not precisely together, but in parallel. She would go to Thanksgiving. Play the lovely daughter. Keep them busy. Keep them distracted. Allow me time to disappear for the day. Perhaps they'd give up if they couldn't locate me. Perhaps they'd understand I was serious. On Thanksgiving morning, I packed a bag and left my apartment at dawn. Went to Jenna's apartment. Her family was okay with me joining. Her mother, Carla, had heard the stories. She said, I was welcome at any moment. Said family was based on choice rather than blood. Made me cry a little in a positive way. Switched my phone off. I didn't want to see any texts. I didn't want to know when they showed up. I did not want to feel guilty. I just wanted a nice holiday, an average supper, a day without drama. Jenna's family handed me that. Turkey, stuffing, and pie. No screams, no destruction, no guilt. But I did switch on my phone that night. I needed to know what happened. 53. Missed calls, over 100 texts. I never listened to voicemails. The last text came from Tess. They came. They saw you weren't there. They left. Mom is preparing something else. Be careful. The following few days were tense, waiting for Mom's next move, jumping every time someone knocked, checking windows obsessively. Jenna said I was becoming paranoid again. But I knew Mom. She did not give up. She just regrouped, planned better, hit harder. Then my academic advisor called me. Someone called and claimed to be me. Stated that I was dropping out due to a family emergency. I needed to withdraw immediately. The advisor was perplexed. I had just passed my anatomy exam. Why should I quit now? I informed her that was not me. She explained that she had worked it out and simply wanted to warn me. My landlord, Trevor, was next. I received a call stating that I had breached my lease, that I had moved my entire family in. The neighbors were grumbling. He drove by to check. Saw nothing but wanted to know if anyone was trying to get me evicted. I explained about my mother. He claimed he would ignore any future calls. Then there's my job. Someone called in sick for me, 3 shifts in a row. My manager nearly fired me. I had to show him our family group chat, explained the entire scenario. He offered me another chance. But after one more issue, I was gone. I began recording everything, saving screenshots, developing evidence. Kept giving me information. Mom had recruited Aunt Marcy as her primary ally. They were studying legal possibilities. We're talking about wellness checkups, about forcible interventions, about declaring me mentally incapable. That was insane. I was a strata medical student, but Mom was desperate. Consider getting a restraining order, Jenna's mother suggested. But that meant court. It meant facing them. It meant making everything public and legal. I only wanted to be left alone to study, to work, to live. Why was that so difficult for them to understand? Then came the letters. Not emails, but genuine letters from all family members. Everyone saying the same thing. How I was hurting Mom. How I abandoned Tess. How I would later regret being selfish and harsh. Some were handwritten, some typed. Everything designed to break me down. But Tess's letter was different. Hidden in Aunt Marcy's envelope, a sticky note that simply said, "Stay strong. You are doing the correct thing. I'm proud of you." It was the first time in 8 years that Tess had expressed pride in me and everything I had done. It hit harder than all the guilt combined. I decided it was enough. I changed my phone number. I only told Jenna about my job. I got a P.O. box for mail. Every day I parked my car in a different lot. Yes, it was exhausting, but it was preferable to coping with Mom's increasing madness. 2 weeks went by without incident. A little, perhaps they had given up. Perhaps Mom had discovered a new project. Perhaps Tess had persuaded them to back off. I should have known better. Mom was only considering her nuclear option. It was a Tuesday when everything went wrong. I was walking to class when I noticed them. Mom, Dad, Aunt Marcy, 3 cousins, standing outside the hospital facility holding signs. Family abandonment is abuse. Tess needs her sister. And my personal favorite, shame on Elena. Other students were staring, taking photos, whispering. I ducked into a side building and called security. I told them about the harassment. They claimed they would handle it. However, I could still hear Mom through the window. She told everybody who would listen about her ungrateful daughter. It's about poor, traumatized Tess, about family values. I asked Jenna to bring me a jacket and sunglasses. Snuck out the back. Like a criminal, I missed my anatomy lecture. I had to email my professor with an excuse for being sick. He probably believed I was lying. Great. Mom was now interfering with my academic progress as well. Protests lasted 3 hours, and they began to block doors. Security forced them to leave, but the harm had been done. Everyone in my program had witnessed it. I'd heard the stories. I moved from being an unknown student to the girl with a wacky family. Some classmates were sympathetic. Others only wanted to gossip. That night, Tess called from an unfamiliar number. Mom stated that she intended to return tomorrow with more people, make it a daily routine till I crack. I said she tried to stop her, but Mom had really lost it. She was certain that public shame would bring me home. I couldn't handle another day like that. Couldn't start my medical profession as a protest girl, so I did something I said I'd never do. I called Mom directly from Jenna's phone, so she would actually respond. The conversation was short. First, I asked her to meet me at a coffee shop near school alone. One chance to speak. She arrived with Dad and Aunt Marcy. Of course, I almost left right away, but Tess entered behind them.
She saw me.
Shook her head. I said, I tried. I sat at a separate table, close enough to hear, far enough to provide space, still protecting me in her strange way. Mom started immediately. How could I leave my family? How could I hurt Tess? How could I be so selfish? I let her rant for 5 minutes, allowed her to express herself fully. Dad occasionally nodded. Aunt Marcy uttered disapproving sounds. I just drank my coffee and waited. When she eventually stopped, I took out my phone. I showed her the screenshots that Tess had sent, messages about forcing me home, the plan to call my school, the tactics for making my life miserable. Her face turned crimson. She turned and glared at Tess. But I wasn't finished. I told her about the award, the poison, the destroyed books, years of dread, how she had enabled it all, how she consistently prioritized Tess's trauma over my safety. Dad appeared stunned. Mom had apparently downplayed things for him. Aunt Marcy attempted to interrupt. I continued talking. Then I uttered the thing that finally silenced her. I got into medical school despite her, not because of her. That every achievement she'd forced me to conceal had led me here. Whether or not my family supported me, I was going to be a doctor. I was done being Tess's emotional punching bag. Mom began crying. Real tears, not manipulated tears. She claimed she had merely wanted to help Tess heal. That she thought keeping us together would solve everything. That she had failed us both. It was the first honest statement she'd made in years. Dad reached for her hand. She pulled away. Tess stood up, then walked over to our table. I looked Mom directly in the eyes. I told her to stop, that she had tortured me plenty. It was time to let me go, that she was seeking therapy on her own, that she no longer needed me to suffer for her. Mom's face crumbled. Aunt Marcy tried one more guilt trip and began discussing family loyalty, forgiveness, and moving forward. Together, Tess laughed. Actually laughed. She asked Marcy if she could forgive someone who poisoned her meals, who ruined her achievements, who made her life miserable for 8 years. Marcy shut up. I stated my terms clearly. No more protests, no more calls to my school or workplace, no further letters or interventions. I stated I'd consider attending Christmas if they maintained limits. If not, I would seek a restraining order. I had already spoken to a lawyer, was prepared to make it legal. Mom nodded, looked defeated. Dad eventually spoke up. He said he was proud of me, that I had demonstrated more strength than he ever had, that he should have protected me long ago, that he will ensure Mom kept her vow. It was pleasant to hear. 8 years late, but good. He asked if we could text occasionally, just updates. I answered, maybe. Tess asked to accompany me out, away from Mom and the others. Outside, she handed me an envelope. She said it was from her therapy fund. which she had saved from her part-time. Work, enough to make up for the time I missed at work due to Mom's harassment. I attempted to resist. She insisted. She said it was the least she could do. She also mentioned that she was moving out. She had found a group home for traumatized adults. Somewhere she could receive intense therapy. She couldn't harm anyone. Somewhere Mom couldn't use her as a weapon. She had already put down a deposit. She was planning to relocate next week. I wasn't sure what to say. We stood awkwardly for a minute. We'd been through 8 years of misery, but there was also something new. Understanding, maybe, or just fatigue. She expressed her wish that I would become an excellent doctor, that she would observe from a distance. She said she was proud of me. Then she went back inside. I've not seen her in person since. The following few months were quiet. Mom fulfilled her promise. No more harassment, no more guilt trips, just silence. Dad texted occasional updates on the weather and the dog. Safe topics. I responded occasionally. Short messages, baby steps. Perhaps we'll have a relationship eventually, perhaps not. I learned about Tess from Dad. She was doing well in the group home. Intensive therapy 3 times each week. New medication regimen. Art therapy allowed her to vent her emotions without causing destruction. She had even landed a job at a plant nursery. She explained that growing things helped her grasp the importance of nurturing rather than destroying. Christmas came and went. I did not go home. I spent it with Jenna's family again. They had virtually adopted me by that time. Her mother, Carla, kept saying, "You need meat on your bones." Her father, Louis, taught me to play dominoes. That was nice. Normal. Nobody cried over something I didn't deserve. I received a card from Mom. Simple. Just thinking about you. Love. You, Mom? No guilt. No manipulation. Just a card. I did not respond. I wasn't prepared. Perhaps I never will be, but I saved it. Placed it in a drawer alongside other complicated memories. Evidence that people may change. Maybe spring semester. I poured myself into studying anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, the works. I got top marks in everything. Put a snapshot of my white coat on Instagram public. Proud, no more concealing achievements. Some family witnessed it. I enjoyed it. Small gestures, big meanings, progress. I received a text from an unknown number. On my birthday, happy birthday, you deserve everything good. I knew it was Tess. Did not respond, but I did not erase it either. I saved it. Actual proof that the girl who used to scream, "You don't deserve this," had finally changed her opinion. It only took 8 years. I ran into my cousin Jake in the grocery store. He apologized for sending group chat messages, admitted he had been mistaken. Family pressure caused people to do stupid things that he was proud of me for advocating for myself. We grabbed some coffee, caught up. He said Mom was also in therapy, finally addressing her rescuer complex. The 1-year mark since leaving home passed quietly. I had survived, thrived even. Top of my class, great friends, a little apartment that was just mine. No broken awards, no poisoned food, nobody yelling about what I deserved. It's just me creating the life I'd always desired, the life I had kept secret for so long. Jenna gave me a party, small, only close friends. But she gave a toast that struck me deeply. "We're the strongest person I know. Watching you break free has motivated me. It demonstrated what real courage looks like." I am not fighting back. I am simply refusing to play the game anymore. I'm walking away. Dad called that night. Mom expressed a desire to apologize. She'd written a letter, asked if he could transmit it. I said yes. The letter arrived a week later. 3 pages. Mom recognized her mistakes. How she had failed me, how she had enabled Tess. She had put Tess's well-being ahead of my safety. She was terribly sorry. I did not respond to that either. Wasn't prepared for forgiveness. Perhaps never will be, but I did read it several times. I kept it with my Christmas cards. Evidence of transformation, of growth, of a family that had finally stopped expecting me to set myself on fire to keep the others warm. That was enough for now. My second year of medical school began. Classes are harder, longer hours, but I loved it. Every minute, even the harsh examinations, even with the endless studying, because it was mine, my achievement, my future. Nobody could throw this trophy at my head. No one could sabotage this success.